We offer a variety of programs, many of whom are available to our members, but also to our external partners. And so including, we have our mentorship platform, which is our Global Academic Inventors Network. It connects students, researchers, and faculty from across the world. Technology and Innovation, our multidisciplinary journal, published in-house. We produce 4 issues each year. From Campus to Commerce, a video series featuring early stage innovation that takes place at our member institutions, such as inventors of plant-based protein alternative Beyond Meat from the University of Missouri. We also offer 2 recognition and award programs, Fellows and Senior Member. We are still accepting nominations and encourage you to submit an application or nominate your peers for these national awards. Our organization is committed to using its platform to help minimize barriers and promote an inclusive environment for all, especially through these programs I mentioned and beyond. Though we were not able to have our annual meeting this year in person, we are excited to present our virtual ScholarShare series. Today's webinar is titled Engineering for One Planet Roundtable. And I would like to introduce our panelists. We have Cindy Gilbert, Senior Program Officer from Venturewell. Cindy, I don't know if you want to say hello. Cindy Cooper. Hi, Cindy. Cindy Cooper, representing the Lemelson Foundation, is a program officer and has been working with our organization for a number of years, and we're excited to welcome her today as well. And then lastly, Phil Willerstein, who is the president of Venturewell. So join me in welcoming our 3 panelists this morning, and I am so excited for this conversation. It's something that I know has definitely meant a lot to our members, and we had a lot of engagement on this topic. So this is going to be a great session, and I can't wait to hear the results. So take it away, guys. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much, Jade, for that welcome and for being here today. We're really delighted to see such a big crowd to join us with this conversation. I'm just going to introduce a few ideas related to our goals for today, and then how this session is structured, so you have a sense of how this hour will work. We have 3 main goals for this session. The first is to really gather feedback on the Engineering for One Planet initiative, which Cindy Cooper is going to tell us a lot about. The second goal is to share and to learn about related efforts. So we're interested in connecting with you and hearing from you about what things that you find are aligned and what we should know about and how we can work together. And thirdly, really paired with our second goal, is to really make connections with and between people and groups with similar goals. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'm excited to see there's quite a lot of diversity of roles of people on the call. I'm disappointed there are no students, so we have to figure out how we can reach more students. And we'd love to hear from you today about how we can connect with more students about this work. Just 1 minute to cover how we'll be engaging throughout this panel. So Cindy Cooper and Phil will be presenting to us in just a minute. And if you have any questions at any time throughout the presentation, please use the chat box to add your questions, and I'll be monitoring that throughout the whole session. And if you're not familiar, the chat box is, there's an icon, it's sort of a speech bubble at the bottom of your screen. And you can just click on that and enter your question to everyone. You'll see the option to choose everyone versus an individual on the call. And then after Cindy and Phil present, we'll be going into some exciting breakout discussions, and I'll explain at that time how the breakout rooms will function. So for now, I'll just hand the baton over to Cindy Cooper so she can take it away.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Jade, for the introduction and the opportunity to be here. Thank you all for coming. It's actually amazing that this is happening in this amazing time that we're living through. And I see some familiar faces, which is great, and I'm also super excited to see some new faces. So as they noted, my name is Cindy Cooper, and I'm from the Lemelson Foundation. I'm a program officer, and I'm really delighted to be here representing the foundation to talk about Engineering for One Planet. This is a fairly new initiative for us, just a couple of years old, but the foundation itself is celebrating 25 years, and our mission is improving lives through invention. We were founded by Jerry Lemelson and his wife, Dorothy. Jerry was a prolific inventor himself, probably one of the most prolific independent inventors of the last century. He had over 600 patents on all kinds of topics. And he and Dorothy created the foundation in this belief that the power of invention could solve pressing problems and was necessary for creating a vibrant economy. And they believed in supporting the next generation of inventors. So, they believed that we needed inventors in order to maximize the inventive potential and to invest in the youth. So they created this foundation, and we can see that they were right about their beliefs. We know the power of invention. We understand that we need invention to address things like COVID, to take greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere, to connect us with each other through these amazing devices. So the list goes on and on. But how do we get inventions? Well, several of you, I believe, are probably inventors, so you know the paths that you've taken, and you know the trials and tribulations, you know the joys and rewards of inventing, and you know that we need more people with great ideas and effective systems for taking those ideas out into the world. So our work really revolves around developing that next generation of inventors and supporting them as able to take their ideas out through entrepreneurial pathways. We really believe that every student should have the chance to experience inventing, and we support programs in the U.S. in K-12 through higher ed to provide those opportunities. And again, for those students that have viable, promising ideas, we support programs to provide training and funding to help them get their ideas to market through an entrepreneurial path, which leads me to introducing Phil, who will tell you more about the work that Venturewell does as our flagship grantee working with us on our higher ed initiatives. So I'll turn it over to Phil.
Thanks, Cindy. Very pleased to be here with you and delighted to be able to talk about this important topic with this particular community. Venturewell is a not-for-profit organization. It is actually an invention of Jerry Lemelson, who defined a vision for reaching higher education and engaging the capacity of higher education and research institutions to change the landscape for how one can become an inventor and the pathway to being engaged not only in invention, but innovation and its entrepreneurial scaling. The organization was created to engage the higher education institutions and their students in the process of taking ideas to benefit for society. And we do that both through institutional development of invention capacity, through curriculum development, grant making, communities of practice, and through the support of emerging innovators. And we've been at this for 25 years. This is one of the first programs that the foundation created and continues to be a close partner. We have grown and developed programming that reaches really around the world to support and nurture emerging innovators, to help to create capacity for educating and launching the next generation of innovators, and for scaling and bringing to market ideas that are created by young innovators emerging from higher education, from research institutions. And the work that we're doing has always been focused on addressing the needs of both people and planet. We screen for and select for both opportunities that will provide some social benefit and that do things that are at least neutral, if not positive, for the environment. But a couple of years ago, we were challenged by the Lemelson Foundation to join them in embarking on a kind of next phase of how we might go deeper, in particular in making impact in environmental inventing and in innovation for the needs of the planet. And the initiative that you're going to hear more about shortly represents kind of a deeper engagement in how we prepare the leaders of the future for not only inventing solutions, but also for having a literacy to lead society in making sure that those solutions are realized and that the environment exists not only for the technology, but also in the policy environment and in the business environment for ensuring that these solutions scale and have impact. So delighted to hear your ideas about what we've put forward. And thank you again for having us be part of this discussion today. Back to you, Cindy.
Great, thanks, Phil. So let's talk about Engineering for One Planet. This will be a brief overview. My goal is about 10 minutes. I hope you had a chance to read the pre-reads that we sent, but we also understand that may not have been possible. Do reach out if you need us to send you those materials. Cindy Gilbert also did a great video overview through NAI, and that's available. She really focused on the tool that we're using that helps to guide curricular change called the Environmentally Responsible Engineering Framework. So yeah, do reach out to us if you need the materials to go deeper on this. But we did want to get everyone on the same page about this initiative and how it's evolved. So quick overview. So this is the aspiration for Engineering for One Planet, or the vision, to ensure all engineering professionals are equipped with the fundamental competencies, skills, and knowledge in environmentally responsible engineering by transforming engineering education. And as Phil was mentioning, we have been committed to cultivating inventors and innovators who have the smallest environmental footprint possible. And that includes things like how the product is designed for efficiency, how it's manufactured, thinking about embodied energy in manufacturing, thinking about the materials used, are you following green chemistry principles, the energy used in distribution, etc. Even thinking about the end of life. All of those and many more are aspects of environmental responsibility. So it's different than, how do you address an environmental problem that also is environmentally good, but no matter what kind of invention you might be putting forward, being able to think about what's the impact of that, even if it's for something completely unrelated to environmental impact. So to help us achieve this intention, as Phil was saying, we've worked with our grantees like Venturewell to create a number of really great, I think, free teaching tools. And these are available on Venturewell's website. Several grantees participated in creating these tools. There are different formats, videos, materials to read, things that you can put in classrooms as educators, things that inventors and innovators can read and understand and watch videos about and actually integrate into their work. And we called that body of work Inventing Green. But we realized that teaching inventors and innovators really wasn't enough, because anything invented that goes to a broad use is probably going to get there through the help of engineers. And we saw an opportunity to really prepare more engineers with these skills and knowledge, and that's kind of how Engineering for One Planet was born. So this is a little quote: every dollar that goes up in the chimney in smoke is a wasted dollar. Probably not something you would argue with, not a surprising thing to say, but what might surprise you is that this actually came from a 1926 American Society of Mechanical Engineers publication. So engineers have been thinking about environmental impact for a long time, and we've made a lot of progress since then on energy efficiency and pollution prevention. We know a lot more now about the impacts of things like air pollution, and not only on the bottom line, but also on our lives and on the environment and the other lives on our planet. And today, the business case, this publication is talking about the business case for environmental responsibility, but the business case has evolved tremendously, and our knowledge has evolved. And so we see now that the business case is stronger than ever, and here's some indicators of that. More and more of the world's largest corporations really are committing to sustainable practices, and these are some of the reasons they see that those practices correlate positively with financial performance. And then there are people who are just really moved as business leaders because they believe this is the right thing to do, and they're pushing for change. Investors are pushing in this direction and pushing corporations. An example of that is that earlier this year, BlackRock, which is an investor with, depending on the stock market that day, $6 to $7 trillion in assets under management, they declared sustainability as their new standard in investing. And then we've got demands from current and future engineering professionals. They're demanding employers look at this and focus on environmental impact, focus on climate change, just some examples, you know, we've got billions of millennials, and I think the oldest millennials are about 38, 39 at this point. So they're going to be telling us what to do. They're going to be in charge, and these are issues that really matter to them. And the generations that follow even more, you know, are looking at this because they're climate crisis natives. They've grown up in this, and this is what they need to address in their lifetimes and see as absolutely critical and pressing. And of course, you know, where's this business demand coming from? Well, it really reflects this broader need to address these consequences on our environment, consequences on planet, climate, etc. So, you know, our planet obviously is a source of resources, and that's what makes life possible and beautiful. But to continue the way that we're living, we really need to do that within the constraints of those resources. So there's a need for engineers to be able to address the sources of these problems and to ensure that the solutions of today don't become the problems of tomorrow. And, you know, the issues on this list here, you know, they're social issues, and they have, you know, racial implications, and there's a racial divide to consider as well. Numerous studies have shown that people of color in the U.S. bear a higher burden from things like pollution and climate change because of factors such as proximity to pollution, proximity to heat zones, etc., and many other systemic issues. And so I'll illustrate that with an example. This was just published. It was kind of a meta-analysis that was published in the Journal of American Medical Association Network Open. And it showed that women exposed to high temperatures or air pollution, pregnant women, are more likely to have premature, underweight, or stillborn babies, and that the risks were greater for Black women. So why focus on engineering education? Well, it's probably evident why Lemelson and Venturewell would be thinking about education given our work and expertise, but it also makes sense in terms of the potential impact on the world. You know, just in the US, approximately 130,000 engineering and engineering tech students complete bachelor's degrees each year. Engineering education is already paying attention to the issues. The accreditation body ABET requires in their accreditation learning outcomes that students consider things like environmental, social, economic impacts. They don't define the depth of that knowledge, but they do call it out as part of what they need to get out of their education. And then we're seeing amazing courses, programs, specializations in things like sustainable engineering, green engineering. So those programs are on the rise, and students can elect to focus and deepen their knowledge in these areas, but we've found that students are not ubiquitously required to have depth of knowledge in environmentally responsible engineering. So, you know, how do we create change in engineering education? Well, you know, there's a very complex system. Anyone who works in education will tell you it's really hard to change education, but there are a lot of people who've been working on this for many years. There's a dedicated community out there, and there's a lot of passion around this. So creating this change is difficult work. It's a complex system, and it requires engaging multiple stakeholders with different motivations. And, you know, you cannot do the work alone. You know, for us, we've been speaking to dozens, hundreds of stakeholders over the last couple of years to kind of inform ourselves and help us focus on our roadmap and our path. And based on what we've learned, these are kind of the top 3 strategic objectives that we're tackling and feel best equipped to tackle in pursuit of engineering for one planet. So I'll walk through each of these next very briefly, but basically, you know, we keep talking about promoting environmentally responsible engineering, but that's not something that had been previously defined. So work needed to be done to explain what that would be, and then to directly support changes in engineering education. And then, as we've all been alluding to, it's really important to bring people together, to bring people who've been working on this, bring new people in, and create a movement to create change together. So this is the environmentally responsible engineering framework here on the right, a little summary. And, you know, really, like I said, we didn't have a definition for this before because we're talking about what are core skills, knowledge, competencies that would be applicable to all engineers. So it's not about a new specialization. It's about identifying what would be fundamental regardless of the engineering discipline you're in. And really, by the way, I think that the list that's been developed could apply to a number of different, if not all disciplines. It's really a relevant core set of skills and knowledge and competencies. And this isn't our definition. You know, Lemelson and Venturewell didn't write this out of the blue and put it in the world. We actually have been talking to experts, and they have worked with us to craft these words and these definitions and learning outcomes. And so we even had an online open commenting process last fall to bring people in to write and think and discuss what these things should be. So if you want more information on that, again, we can send it to you. Cindy did a great 20-minute overview of the framework itself, and we definitely would love your feedback. This framework is still in a draft form, and we're still looking for people to tell us what they think, and we'd love to add you to our list of supporters and collaborators. So just a couple of nuts and bolts, you know, what is the framework? And you really see this hopefully as an adaptable set of student learning outcomes. It's what these experts have said all engineers would need to be able to know and to be able to do to achieve the Engineering for One Planet vision. We see it also as a tool for curricular change, you know, can provide guidance on what to teach. And so we see it really for us as a core way to create the change that we're talking about as part of Engineering for One Planet. Basically, at a high level, it's about these three categories: system thinking, knowledge and understanding, skills, experiences, and behaviors. There are learning outcomes that are core, and then there are learning outcomes that are considered advanced. So we would hope that at a minimum to really be engineers for one planet, that students would learn the core learning outcomes. System thinking is central to all of this, and of course, a lot of engineering already teaches systems thinking, but it's a matter of how that's defined, the boundaries of the system. Civil engineering might talk about systems in the context of a region, a city, but other engineering disciplines might really focus on a design. And so this is about thinking about the systems that include things like society and the environment. Knowledge and understanding includes things like environmental literacy, responsible business and economy, social responsibility. So even though the title that we're using is environmentally responsible, it's bigger than that. That's what experts said needed to be addressed. Other topics, not just environmental impact, because environmental impact is social impact. And then with skills, experience, and behaviors, they're broken out to technical and leadership, where technical skills are things like environmental impact measurement, think life cycle analysis, materials choice, design. And then leadership skills, critical thinking, communication, teamwork, which, by the way, across the board in employer surveys, these are things that employers demand in engineering and in other disciplines. So for objective 2, support change in engineering education, well, we ourselves are now about to fund 5 pilot grants over the next 2 years to work with some higher education institutions on using the framework, testing it out, creating changes in their courses, and then sharing back to the community what they learned. So if there's a, syllabi are created, if there are pedagogical approaches, we'll package those up, we'll share them out to contribute to how to do this work. And then we, again, can't do this alone, and so we are looking to work with others, funders, other partners to scale curricular changes in potentially other ways. So some possible ways to do that could include developing more tools and methodologies for teaching, providing faculty capacity building through training, providing other kinds of grants for curricular transformation, bigger grants, awards, commitments, recognition. We're excited to find more folks out there to work with us and support these kinds of activities. So more to come in the future. And then the third objective, building a movement. Clearly, this work is audacious. We have to work together to achieve it. And working with others has been central for us along the way in everything we've done so far. There have been already, for many years, incredible people and organizations doing great work in these areas before we ever got involved. So we need to tap into that. And we've been speaking with folks along the way. And what we learned is that it seemed like there was an opportunity to do more, and that there was value in actually bringing people together, bringing organizations together, bringing ideas together. So we're seeking to play a role in helping to do that. Conversations like this one are a way to do that. We hope next year to actually bring people together in a face-to-face format, maybe with a virtual component as well, so we can have an even bigger group. We see other ways to continue this work. Sorry about that. So, you know, it'll be hopefully possible for folks in this community to find priorities together that we might be able to drive forward. Different groups could have different things that they want to collaborate on. So we look forward to finding out more about that. All right, so here's the next, that's my overview. So here's the next slide, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay, so Cindy Cooper just gave us a great overview of a lot of information. I know it's a lot to digest. We're all very excited about this project and have a lot to chat about. So we decided for this session that it would be really exciting to separate into 3 different breakout rooms and to dive into a few key questions. So we'll actually take, when we go to each of the rooms, which you'll just automatically be joining a room, you don't have to worry about it. Jade's going to put us into these virtual rooms. You'll have just a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds to introduce yourself, quickly go around, share your name, your title, and what organization or institution that you represent. And then we'll have probably about 15 minutes to look at some key questions, and then we'll come back as a big group and discuss the key takeaways and themes together, followed by a Q&A. So the few questions that we want to examine together are basically, how would you see yourself engaging with Engineering for One Planet initiative? How might the ERE framework or the Engineering for One Planet network be relevant to your own work? And the third question is, what approaches are you involved with or familiar with that are seeking to generate more environmentally responsible invention and engineering? We would love to hear about that. So I think Jade is going to pull us into 3 different rooms, and we'll just see you. All groups are back now?
I'll mute myself.
Fantastic. Okay, it seems like everyone is back from breakouts. Thank you very much. I actually think maybe I need to do a time check with the group because we're close to the hour. But what we really wanted to do at this point is to have at least each group go around and share 1 or 2 key themes. And it looks like we probably will run out of time after that. So maybe we could start with the breakout session that I was in. Pam was going to just share a couple of key themes that popped out of our conversation.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and Cindy sort of prompted this earlier, that probably the biggest theme through the thread through our conversation was around the need to increase awareness and reach students, that they're, you know, an important stakeholder audience in this mission around the Engineering for One Planet initiative. So, you know, as Michael said, Michael Sima, you know, if you want to know about the future of engineering, talk to future engineers, you know, so that just thinking about that. David Washington mentioned one way to reach them possibly was through engineering fraternities on campus. Yet there was acknowledgement that they can be harder to reach because of sort of where they are in terms of sort of a self-focus around their sort of individual as their futures, and so might be harder to get them to see the bigger picture beyond sort of their immediate benefit. So yeah, so I'll leave it there because I know we're running out of time.
Thanks so much, Pam. That was a great summary. Cindy Cooper, do you want to share a key takeaway from your group?
Yes, so similarly, youth, you know, getting people exposed earlier, that was a theme. Transdisciplinary, connecting people across disciplines, the importance of providing that ability to communicate with different people who are doing different things and working together. Some really systems level themes have come up in our conversations. You know, another thing that came up is the opportunity to expand the depth of these themes geographically. We had an attendee who is originally from Ghana, and he talked about how there's a lot of interest in Africa. Yeah, so, you know, a couple of resources were mentioned, looking at ways to share with faculty the importance of providing easy to use resources, and Keen was mentioned. They do a really good job with entrepreneurship education for engineering faculty, as well as, you know, entrepreneurs organization, you know, reaching people who are working to create products, reaching inventors, reaching people who are out there developing these things through different networks. I'll stop there.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Cindy. And Phil, do you want to share a key
so
takeaway?
just very briefly, a couple things came up. There was mention of the aligned interest of the Keen program, and actually we are planning a workshop together with Keen that will focus on entrepreneurial mindset and environmental sustainability, bring that into the curriculum. In the group, we talked about the importance of connecting sustainability with both a sort of depth of thinking about the nature of the work that students will do in the world, and providing, importantly, an experiential opportunity for them to both experience how that work is done, ideally in a kind of embedded opportunity like an internship or a student entrepreneurial team activity. And there was discussion of a number of different models for reinforcing both the content and knowledge with experiences that enable students to apply that knowledge. And finally, that there was an important point brought up here that really the best way to do this may be to embed the opportunities in interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary experiences, so that there are opportunities for students to understand this in the context of the world, and ideally to do that in a global context if it's possible. And I'll stop there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. So it looks like we're right at time, and I really want to honor the fact that you're busy people and you need to probably get to other meetings, but just a really huge thank you for taking the time to be with us today. We're very excited about next steps. We hope that you will provide feedback on the ERE framework and or join our Engineering for One Planet initiative, which on the form for the feedback, you can actually click to join the initiative, so you'll be on our mailing list automatically. And also a huge thank you to Jade and Jody and to National Academy of Inventors for giving us this opportunity to share with each of you and hear from each of you. We really appreciate it. So thank you, and take care and stay healthy.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.